Good evening, listener, and welcome to another exciting edition of Electoral Reform Hour on the network service of Radio Nigeria. I hope you're ready for another insightful journey into the heart of our democratic process. Last week, we were honored to have Saudatu Mahdi MFR with us, where we talked about the important issue of gender inclusivity in our electoral system. Her insights were eye-opening and sparked great conversations. This week, we are turning our attention to an equally crucial topic: citizens' demands and expectations from the ongoing electoral reforms. This is a topic that touches every single one of us as we all strive for a more transparent, fair, and inclusive electoral process. My name is Ezanwawa Abu, your uncle. Electoral Reform Hour is a program aimed at fostering inclusive dialogue among citizens from varied backgrounds concerning electoral reforms and constitutional amendment. We also strive to enhance public understanding and awareness regarding electoral reform and possibly compile and present citizen-derived recommendations to the National Assembly and INEC for consideration. This program is brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PAACA, with support from MacArthur Foundation. You don't want to miss any edition of this program. In the evolving landscape of Nigerian democracy, electoral reforms are essential to address long-standing issues that have plagued the electoral process. Citizens demand a transparent, inclusive, and credible electoral system that can restore faith in the democratic process. These demands often center on key areas such as enhancing the autonomy of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, ensuring the security of voters, and incorporating technology to streamline and safeguard electoral procedures. Furthermore, there is a strong call for the inclusion of marginalized groups, including women, youth, and Nigerians in the diaspora, to ensure that the electoral process is truly representative of the diverse Nigerian populace. Public awareness and engagements are crucial for the success of these reforms. Citizens expect comprehensive voter education initiatives to inform them about their rights and the importance of their participation in the electoral process. They also seek greater accountability and transparency in the administration of elections, including measures to prevent electoral fraud and violence. As Nigeria approaches future elections, the focus remains on implementing reforms that will guarantee free, fair, credible, acceptable elections, thereby strengthening the foundation of democracy in the country. The ongoing electoral reforms present an opportunity to address these demands and build a more robust democratic system that can meet the aspirations of Nigerians. To shed more light on these critical issues, we're privileged, more than privileged, to have with us Otive Ibuzo, PhD, Founding Executive Director of African Center for Leadership Strategy and Development, CentreLSD. Dr. Ibuzo has worked as International Head of Campaigns of Action Aid and indeed became its country director. He also served as an Honorable Commissioner in the Police Service Commission. Prior to his tenure at the Action Aid, he was a program coordinator at the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, an independent research, information, and training institute dedicated to policy-oriented scholarship on democratic development and peace building. Dr. Ibuzo was also the Chief of Staff to the Deputy Senate President Night Assembly, and he will provide valuable insights into citizens' demands and expectations from the ongoing electoral process. You're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, I looked at the landscape in terms of qualification to be able to look at the conversation that we're having today. You have that intermediacy between citizens and government, because you have an overview, and nothing is even more central than the fact that you were deep at the heart of the electoral reform process at the Ninth Assembly. So I just want to say, given your experience as the Chief of Staff to the former deputy, can you help us understand, the process of amending these laws? What are the key steps that stakeholders need to, how they need to get involved in the legislative process?
Okay, I think the first point is to know that government is made up of three arms: executive, legislature, and judiciary. The legislature makes laws, the executive implements the laws, and the judiciary interprets. So how are the laws made? What is the role of stakeholders? I think that one of the basic things about laws is that laws are supposed to be made to solve specific problems in society. When problems arise, maybe even individual pressure, it becomes an issue and it comes into the agenda. When it comes into the public agenda, then a bill is prepared. So whether it's an existing law or it's a new law, that is, a bill is prepared. And in the Nigerian legislative process, a bill can be sponsored by either a member of the House or an executive bill from the executive arm of government. And the way Nigeria is structured, there is federal, there is state, there is local government. At the federal level, there are two arms of government. There are two arms of the legislature: the upper legislative house, the Senate, and the lower legislative house, the House of Representatives, even though they don't like to be called upper and lower. And so, any of the chambers can initiate a law, but there has to be concurrence from the other law. And when the law comes, there is first reading, there is second reading, and then it's referred to a committee to look at it in details. And the committee may call for public hearing so that stakeholders can make input into the law, and then before it is passed. After passage and concurrence by the two arms, then it goes to the president for assent. The president may give assent, the president may withhold assent. If the president withholds assent, then it goes back to the chambers for possible override. If they vote by two-thirds, then it can override. So whether the president gives assent or not, it becomes law. And that has happened. At least the passage of NDDC Act, it was through an override of the National Assembly. So in simple way, that is the process of making law. And that is the same process that happens at the state level, except that for the state, there is one House of Assembly. And then the same is supposed to happen at the local government level through the councillors. Yes. But we hope that with this Supreme Court judgment, that both citizens and officials of the local government will take it seriously, so that local government chairmen will have their own budget, they will have laws, and the local government councillors will hold them accountable.
I hope it's more financial autonomy than political, really. But
yes, but that financial autonomy should be able to stimulate a political response. Because you know, as well as I do, that if it's just financial autonomy, you give the monies direct to some of them. Remember, there was a time in the past where a lot of money was given to local government to pay teacher salary. They refused to pay.
That's true.
So what I'm saying is that I hope that this financial autonomy would translate some engagement by stakeholders. Because my insistence is that it's engagement by stakeholders that will make government to be accountable.
What's interesting is that inarguably you are one of those that I can say grandfathered the electoral reform process, especially from 1999. And so you have a big scope of understanding. Now there is this conversation about all elections holding in one day, presidential, governorship,
National Assembly and State
Assembly holding in one day. Given your background, given your experience, given the fact that you are also widely traveled, what are your thoughts around this?
Well, it's a very difficult thing to see. But ideally, I will say that holding all elections in one day will be better for the system. Why do I say so? You will recall that in the past, presidential elections were held last. And at a time, it was changed. And presidential elections are held first. And the 8th Assembly tried to change it. Why did they want to change it? They wanted to change it because of the knowledge, not just perception, the knowledge that when presidential elections hold first, it affects other elections through what is generally known as a bandwagon effect. And that was why the Saraki administration wanted to reverse it. And it caused a lot of challenges, where some senators like Senator Vioma Agege and Adamu, opposed that process. So for the system, I think that it will reduce cost, but the cost to people that have to go for election twice. If you know the cost of election, how many people travels from Lagos, from Abuja to go to the village just to go and vote? It will not be once. So ideally, it will be better for the system. But my only challenge is that I do not think that INEC will be prepared logistically to be able to count 5 different ballots. It will be a logistical nightmare. So
two things come from there. Bandwagonism as the cover. Self-preservation also as another, because when you look at the attrition level in terms of return of lawmakers,
it's very low.
It's very low, and they sometimes think that it has to do with the fact that so the president is securing himself. They also want to secure themselves.
So, but when it's held the same day, everybody is on the same platform.
Yes. So, but you raised a very critical issue: the challenge of logistics, the challenge of topography. Nigeria is huge. Those who cite examples like to use Liberia, and I say Liberia is the voting strength of Liberia is that of Imo State, for instance.
I'm not too sure now. I think there are other big democracies. India, I think they hold all their elections in one day. I'm not too sure now.
I'm not sure about India, but the big challenge is that in terms of manpower, in terms of the resources that you have, I just want you to put more so that there can be understanding, because the value of this program for us is to be able to see expert understanding of these issues in a way that it can be
broken down by the people.
Yes,
yeah. I understand that clearly. I think that, what we need to do is to improve logistics. Because, in most cases, we give excuses for INEC. And it's not really an impossible task to do if there are no other considerations that bring challenges to the logistics. If they want to do the right thing, there can be adequate planning, because come to look at it, the logistics you do for the two, the only difference is that you will carry 5 ballots. You will count 5 ballots and voting. So I think that it is possible to improve the logistics. And if you notice, there has been attempts to break the polling units to manageable units. And that is why we must even be scientific in the way we do things. We must look at how long does it take one person to vote. And based on that, you can predict from all previous voting, we don't have more than 40% turnout.
Yes, but you prepare for
yes.
You prepare for
100. But we know, I'm sure we know, those of us who are in the field, anywhere you go to and you see 90% voting, 95% voting, there is trouble there.
Yes, but doctor, like I said, nobody, and I'm not saying this in a patronizing way, nobody has a wide spectrum of understanding of this process that you do. What places you there is that you've worked with the Police Service Commission.
I understand that.
You've been in the...
I've even attempted to contest election. I've organized the election. I've been a deputy director general of a campaign organization in the state. So that's what I'm saying.
So let me come, because it's easy when people who don't have this experience talk about elections. There are in the stakeholder pyramid, there are beyond INEC. That's why sometimes people think there is that excuse for INEC. But the security agencies have a role for punctuality index, to raising the punctuality
That's the point
index.
I was making,
Yes.
that it depends on whether the other factors are into consideration. That is why I am one of the people who have always argued that at times we put too much emphasis on INEC. I know INEC has its role to play, but every other stakeholder has his or her role to play. For instance, security agencies. In some of the places, the lateness of arrival of materials can be attributed to late arrival of security agencies, or security agencies actually refusing to move. And then you have ad hoc staff. There are many situations where ad hoc staff not just impersonate, but refuse to do things.
Yeah.
And the challenge is that there is no consequence for any of all of these things. And there are many reasons for this: the structure, the overburdening of INEC, the lack of Electoral Offences Commission, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the security agencies is not just police. You have SSS, you have other...
Indeed, they have interagency consultative committee on election security.
So all of those things play part. Then you have transporters. There are occasions where INEC has gone into even arrangement with transporters, and it's a day to the time they disappoint.
Yes.
So it's the environment of operations. But what I'm saying is that, these challenges are known. And because unknown
It's solvable.
is solvable. If INEC, really pulls its act down. And the point is really that, the point I'm making for this single day election is that, look, if you calculate everything, you will not repeat all. If you do a second election, you will repeat everything you've done before. But when you do all the election once, the only thing you will do is that instead of counting 3 ballots, you will count 5.
5, that's true.
Instead of voting 3 ballots, you will vote 5. So if you look at it in terms of efficiency, doing all elections at once is better.
That's the summary that I was actually looking for.
Yeah.
That so that I can pin you to the fact that you will agree that it could help
Yes,
to have elections
absolutely.
in one day.
Yeah.
But there's an environment that needs to be created
For it to happen.
for that to be happening.
Absolutely.
So I know that you like I keep saying, and I will not stop repeating that your professional experience in different capacities help us to draw from you what do you think are those issues today that bother the ordinary citizen about the electoral reform process.
In fact, the greatest thing that bothers citizens is credibility. Credibility. If you look at the trajectory of elections in Nigeria, you discover that no election has been without malpractices. From the first election in 1923 to the second election, the first election was 1923 after the Clifford Constitution of 1922. The second election was 1947 after the Richards Constitution of 1946. And then the third election was in 1952 after the Macpherson Constitution of 1951. And then there was the pre-independence election of 1959. And then there was the 1964 elections, general elections, and 65 elections in Western region. Yeah. And then there was the 1979 elections, 1983 elections, and then the interregnum of military rule, and then 92 election, which was, though judged by many to be free and fair, was not without its own regularities, up to 1999 and then to date. So the point is that all these elections have their own challenges. But what needs... So it started with when... all the elections, there have been use of money. Starting from Maggi in those days, to salt.
To money inside bread.
To money inside bread. To now, a time where vote buy started. It started with around 1,000 naira. And then
you could
3,000 naira.
You started talking about the Boko Sebe.
So that is one level. For citizens, even if you buy vote and then it's counted, there is concern. But the greatest concern of citizens has been credibility of elections in terms of collation. So people vote at the units. They win at the units and lose at collation centers. So, and that's why there has been several reforms. I was telling somebody sometimes, I say, look, many people discuss election. Do you know what it takes to move people from their houses to go and vote? When you observe elections, you just go to the polling unit and observe. Many other things happen. Then from the polling unit, the results to the collation center. If you go to collation center and you see how results are accepted or rejected, at the collation center and local government, then from there to the state level. And because of this lack of credibility, especially of the collation process, there has been a lot of reforms. You know, the permanent voters card was all intended to increase credibility.
Smart card
the
reader,
smart card reader,
BVAS,
IREF, and IREF. IREF was supposed to be the culmination. But the fact that the IREF failed during the presidential elections has made many people to lose, confidence in the entire process. So the greatest demand of citizens today is how to improve the credibility of the electoral process and ensure that what is voted at the unit level is what translates to the final results.
Okay, I want to because you are a practitioner, you are an observer practitioner. Where do you place the role of the party agents? Because today elections are won at the polling unit. Today, now the understanding of it. Because you placed a lot of premium on IREF, and I have been at the forefront of, saying, look, this IREF is not a collation, is a viewing center, and the lack of understanding of it is perhaps what is the challenge.
Yes, remember what you asked me is the demands of the citizens. Yes, what you are explaining is the technical processes, but the demand of the citizens. And, about, if you look at role of party agents, you discover that there's what I call political entrepreneurs. Many of the small political parties,
they don't like that.
Is populated. No, but I'm telling you what I see on the street.
I said they don't like.
Yeah, they don't have
small.
Yeah, but they are small in terms of the number of votes they gather. And I'm saying that many of their officials are political entrepreneurs. They didn't join. They deliberately join those parties so that they can make money during elections.
Transactional.
It's transaction. When they go to I'm telling you, there are units where you have two agents of political party who registered in those units, and the result from the unit for those party is 0. Because they didn't go there to protect their parties. They went there for transaction. So these party agents, when they go there, they are bought over by the big parties. That is why I've always advocated that if we want to strengthen our system, one of the areas we must focus upon is the political party system. So that we will have true parties, properly so-called, that what distinguishes a party is that a party has a program, and based on that program, they want to take power. Many of the political parties in Nigeria do not want to take power. They are set up for transactions. That's why party agents are not able to play their role in the polling unit. And that is why you see that our politics is where it is today. That is why you see that our elections are not as credible as they should be. Because to have a credible election, INEC must play its role. Political parties must play their role. The media must play its role. If you look at the regulations governing media coverage of elections, you'll be shocked. The media, whether government or private sector, are not supposed to give undue preference to any political party or to any candidate. They are supposed to give equal coverage.
Level playing ground.
Not level playing ground, equal coverage. Because it's different things. Because if you say level playing ground, what happens in reality is that they cover the big parties.
That's true.
They cover the government parties. And the small parties, even if they invite them, they will just ignore them.
Doctor, it's you're beaming a lot of light in the gray areas of this conversation, which has to do with the role of the political parties. And for me, we always give them comfort. And so their responsibility, nobody calls them out.
Absolutely.
If you participated in an election, you should have the Form EC8A from your
polling unit.
Yes. And so you cannot therefore be talking about IREV. You should be pointing us to your own IREV.
Exactly.
And then, but
every political party is supposed, in fact, in a modern election like this, every political party is supposed to have a situation room.
That's what I'm saying. So
situation room. So from immediately after the election, you fax your own result to your situation room, and then you saw that if there is manipulation, you use that as a basis for filing your petition.
So thank you so very much. If you there is going to be we had the former chair of IPAC last 2 weeks, last 2 weeks, and we dealt on this, but we're going to have to come back to that because I'm very, very keen about how we can help, improve our political party. We'll be taking a short break now. When we return, the program continues.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Are you ready for change? Join Pairing Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA. This program amplify electoral reform campaigns and provide citizens with opportunity to make meaningful contributions that will strengthen our electoral process. As a National Assembly, INEC, and other stakeholders work towards improving our electoral process, you too can be a part of the decision-making process. Remember, democracy is for the people. Let your voice be heard. This message is brought to you with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Let's have some peace. Nigerians are peace-loving and hard-working people.
And countries only develop and grow when there is peace and stability.
There are different kinds of problems in every society, and so in every country.
If there are problems here, Nigeria is not an exception.
There is no society, no country where violence and public disorder has solved that problem.
No matter the problem, no matter the issue.
Let us sit down like brothers and sisters. Use dialogue to resolve the problems.
Remember, you have to give account of every action you take, if not here on earth, then before your creator.
Please let us work together for a peaceful Nigeria. Let us work together. Nigeria will be great.
Are you ready for change? Join Hearing Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA. This program amplifies electoral reform campaigns and provides citizens with opportunity to make meaningful contributions that will strengthen our electoral process. As the National Assembly, INEC, and other stakeholders work towards improving our electoral process, you too can be a part of the decision-making process. Remember, democracy is for the people. Let your voice be heard. This message is brought to you with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
It is still the Electoral Reform Hour, and you can be part of this live program by sharing your comments via the social media platforms X at PAACAPACA.ng with the hashtag Electoral Reform Hour. And you can leave your questions and comments for us on Facebook via at PAACA.ng. And our WhatsApp number 081 6808344 0816 8083424. The phone lines will be open soon. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Electoral Reform Hour on Network Service of Radio Nigeria. We still have with us here in the studio Dr. Otive Ibuzo. Doctor, there are concerns about diaspora participation in our electoral process, diaspora voting, diaspora. What are your thoughts around that? Are there things that we can do to make that happen? I know that our neighbors, Niger and Ghana, Ghanaians in Nigeria, Nigerians who live here vote on when they have elections. They don't have to travel back.
Where do they vote?
They vote at their embassies.
Exactly. Exactly. So it is ideal for people living in diaspora to vote. And we have engaged in this thing. There have been a lot of people living in diaspora that have engaged in the advocacy to vote. But the fear of opposition parties is that the process will not be credible. To have Nigerian foreign embassies to conduct the elections and send the result to Nigeria. I think that is just the challenge. Apart from the fact that the logistics to do that will be very, very also challenging for INEC. When to conduct it within Nigeria here, the logistics is always an issue in every election. So I think those are the two key issues that are delaying it. I think INEC has actually said that it's a good thing. They've accepted in principle, but the challenge is how to operationalize it. And I think that those two fears are legitimate fears.
And then when you also worry about undocumented Nigerians who live in Sudan, for instance.
But even if the documented ones, let's say we start with the documented ones, the challenge is the logistics.
I agree.
And the fact that opposition parties will never support that kind of thing. And you know that in bourgeois politics and elections, one of the basic requirements is acceptance of the rules.
That's true.
By those participating. And I'm sure you can predict the result. You know, if you say Nigerian missions should conduct, you are a ambassador, and you bring a result, and the government fail. You know, that's the end of your posting.
They will return you the next day. So the 2027 is not as far as a lot of people think anymore. I know you've discussed credibility, the issue of credibility as a key issue. But what more is possible for a free, fair, credible election?
Well, there are many things that needs to be done. Unfortunately for us as a country, if you notice, since return to civil rule in 1999, after every election, there's always a call for review of the Electoral Act. Because when we learn from every election, then we try to block the loopholes in the subsequent amendment. But it appears the politicians are always a step ahead. When you've thought that you've blocked all the loopholes, in reality, when the election hold, you discover more loopholes. So there are many issues. One of the key issues where critical reform is needed ahead of the 2027 general election is on transmission of results and the role of IREF. I think that needs to be made clear. Even if it is not part of the documentation, there should be a kind of provision that what is in IREF should reflect reality. That will just increase the credibility of the election. The second thing that we need to deal with is the issue of defection. There is this provision that you cannot defect if there is no division in your party. But politicians are just wonderful. They create division before they defect. Somebody can just come today, address a press conference that is a national secretary of the party, and another person is the national chairman.
The division has
and he has created a division. And my thoughts are that we can't allow such thing in a modern society. And I think that there should be system of sanction for people who just wake up. You didn't do any national convention, you didn't do anything, just to create division so that you defect. And then, so I think that is an area of reform that is needed. Another area of reform, which is a long-standing one, is appointment of INEC, the chair of INEC and the
National Commissioners
and the National
Commissioners.
Yeah. Over the years, there has been reform of the Constitution to state clearly that the person should not be a partisan, a card-carrying member of any political party. But we have seen how they have tried to go about it. Even membership of political parties, many of the parties do not have credible register.
Nominal rule.
Yes, and then when they are appointed, the chairman of the party or in their ward will come out and say he's not our member, and there is no credible way to look at it, whether that happens or not. Another key reform that is needed is this issue of Electoral Offences Commission. And it's amazing in Nigeria that you say an issue again and again, the utility is known by all, yet the system will ignore it. INEC officials have said that they cannot do prosecution. Every past commission, whether Uwais and all the commissions after Uwais have said that Electoral Offences Commission is required, yet we just ignore it. So these are some of the critical,
because the people who commit the offences are the ones who make the law.
That is the challenge that we face.
So we're going to have to open the lines. I'm sure our listener has enjoyed this conversation. We are joined by Dr. Otive Ibuzo, the former Chief of Staff to the Deputy Senate President on the 9th Assembly. And this is Electoral Reform Hour. The number to call is 0915 0910482. 091 509 091 509 10483. Let me repeat again. 0915 0910482. 091 10483. You can also
Hello, good evening, sir. Hello.
Good evening. You won't even let me finish.
It's okay. I'm very sorry, sir.
You're welcome. So, who are we on to?
Yes, you are on to Comrade Abdullah Mohammed, a.k.a. Aluta Optimist. I'm calling for Bida Local Government Area Council of Niger State.
These Bida people, you win an award on this program.
I really appreciate your guest and including you for presenting this wonderful topic before tonight. I'm advocating to federal government or the member constituted to look into this electoral reform. That why should a member be in the house to speak the truth? At the end of the day, what we continue receiving or hearing is to suspend that member and to tell him to join any political party of his choice. Who then are we expecting to come and tell us the truth? Are we together?
No, so I can hear you.
Should also be looked into. On no account should a member coming to speak the truth, not for him to cause any division. Such act should be stopped. And secondly, if somebody is contesting for election, maybe under APC or any political party, and he has assumed office, on no account should there be a discrimination between members of that political party with another political party, because we are answerable to the Mr. President or Mr. Governor. So that is just my contribution for this electoral reform. You have a blessed night, sir.
Thank you very much. So, Doctor, while we are looking at that, take his comments and also look at the level of public awareness, around this electoral. Do you think, I don't like to use the word adequate, it's never going to be adequate, but do you think we're doing well in terms of public awareness?
No, there's no serious public awareness going on. And it has always been like this.
Yes, hello.
Good evening, my Oga.
Good evening, my brother.
Good evening, my guest, Doctor.
Good evening. Thank you, sir.
Can we meet you, please?
Thank you. Adam West is the one calling from Suleja.
Adam West from Suleja. This Niger people.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the floor given to me. All along, my problem with Nigerian electoral system has been the INEC and the security agents. I don't know. Let me just say. Let me appreciate. The INEC, the INEC has been serving as the engine room of rigging. Why the police? Why the law enforcement agents provide safe haven for them to go and land? All our electoral, all our political parties. See, the thing is, we want a decent, credible electoral system that's just like you have been saying, just as what you have said earlier. We want fair, credible elections. And if we want that, last time I mentioned, I advocated for electronic voter system. But they said it's expensive, we are not ripe for it. So when are we going to be ripe for it? I don't know. But that is...
Thank you, Adam West. We're running really out of time.
One of my own contributions.
Thank you very much, Adam West. Doctor.
Yes, so I think I agree with Adam West that INEC is a problem, security agents are a problem sometimes, but you should have added political parties and politicians. I think they are actually the greatest problem, because all this debate we are talking, they are never there. You will expect even opposition parties that by now, seeing what they lost during the election, why they lost during the election, that the political parties will have a position paper on which areas of the Electoral Act need to be amended. But what you see is that it's only non-governmental organizations that are pushing for credible, free, and fair elections. And I also agree with Comrade Adamu that...
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
It's Electoral Reform Hour on Radio Nigeria. We have Dr. Otive here.
This is Abubakar Musa calling from Bida, Niger State.
Abubakar, make your point very quickly.
Thanks to your guest. He has made a very good informed analysis. I think in the INEC is high time the INEC take the issue of making a SWOT analysis very serious so that they can understand their strengths and weaknesses. It has been a recurring decimal that elections are conducted and the same mistake will be made over and over and over again. So INEC should please try to see what they can do to take the issue of SWOT analysis serious. And on the issue of political entrepreneurs, it's very unfortunate. They are causing so much harm to the credibility of Nigerian elections. Most of them are political prostitutes. They are there to serve as an interest of some politicians, which I think Nigerian, we need to see what we can do to come up with the issue of politics, of ideology, so that people will see their party as the interest of their party. They are destroying the credibility of elections.
Thank you very much. Thank you for...
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I know that INEC has done a lot of SWOT analysis. I think what they need to do is to live up to their guidelines and be consistent and be more transparent in the way they do things. I was saying that I also agree with Mohammed Aluta that members, in fact, the Senate or the House of Real House of Assembly should not have the power to suspend its members. They are representing people.
Because I thought there was legislative immunity.
Yeah, they are representing people. If you can discipline people in your party, but you cannot. You were not the one who brought them there. They were voted by their constituents, and you cannot, because of disagreement on opinions, suspend the member. I think I agree with that completely. But you cannot, Aluta, you cannot say there should be no discrimination between political parties, because political parties are different. They should have different ideologies. When they go, they should push for the ideologies that brought them to the House or the Senate. And on the issue of public awareness, I think it's a huge challenge. And that is why I must commend Parker and MacArthur Foundation for this project. What we normally see is that people wait till a few months to the election. We should walk around the electoral circle. After the election, we should engage the process. In fact, one of the things that people are saying in terms of citizens' demand is that the electoral reform should be done now, not 6 months to election. It should be done now. Do you know that Electoral Act 2022, many people did not know the content. Many people did not know the content. Even judges, lawyers.
Doctor, we are having, apart from this radio program, we've been running town halls across the country. The shock.
They don't know the content.
Is that the most enlightened section of society talk about election without the legal regime that governs it.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing.
Even in our experience in engaging INEC has, for instance, in the Electoral Act, they has a window of 7 days to review. Where did they review it? Nowhere.
No, they did. They reviewed Abia.
Okay.
They reviewed Abia, they reviewed Enugu, they reviewed Adamawa.
Yes, but in many places, they refuse to review. In Delta, they refuse to review.
Anyway, that's a more technical thing. But the most important thing is
that people are not knowledgeable. In fact, when it was shown to the INEC people that they had power to review, they were shocked. That's the point I'm making.
Even the INEC issue, the whole Electoral Act 2022 is a mystery. And that's my conclusion. Because of the opportunity we've had to engage citizens on it. And it's shocking. Not even...
When the officials that are running it do not know.
Even the members of the National Assembly who passed the Electoral Act are not aware of the content of it. I can guarantee you that. And
that is the challenge. So that is why people are saying, in terms of citizens' demand, that we should pass it now. Whatever law we want to do, we should make sure that this 2024, the Electoral Act 2024 is made so that we have 2025, 2026
to engage
it before it will be used to conduct the election. Remember that INEC is supposed to revise its own guidelines in line with the new law.
We are coasting down towards the end of the program. Double barrel questions. What do we do about autonomy for INEC? What do you think? What are your final thoughts around the electoral reform process, conversation for this program that we can take away? You've given us so much to chew, but I know that in the well of knowledge that you have, we would never be able to exhaust it in one program. But you can give us stipends of your thoughts in just a few minutes before we start.
Yes, autonomy of INEC. At least 3 things can improve the autonomy of INEC. One is appointment. And since 1999, we have advocated that appointment of INEC should be done in a manner that is not done by the president or, the governor in the case of SEC. That there should be a process of advertisement. And a committee of independent commissions will do the selection. That's where I differ a little bit from Uwe's report, which says that the justice should do it. No, independent commissions should do the selection. So you get EFCC, National Human Rights Commission,
and they can be ad hoc.
Yeah, to
do that and not become a bureaucracy.
Absolutely. Then the funding, direct charge on the consolidated form, and then the practices, and the practices in such a way that they are, people engage with INEC. For instance, there are many of the regulations that are not followed.
That's true.
Regulations of appointment of ad hoc staff, for instance, publication for the process of getting the alert, doing interview in a transparent manner, publishing the names of the people, not getting the list from politicians.
Dr. One program is not sufficient to draw out all that you have for. I'm sure that we're soon going to be having our TV 30 minutes on TV. We would have all the opportunity to do that. So
my pleasure anytime.
Profound thanks to our very distinguished guest, Dr. Otive Ibuzo, founding executive director of the African Center for Leadership Strategy and Development. So our dear listener, thank you for joining us, and those of you who called in, thank you so very much on this edition. The Electoral Reform Hour, brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with support from MacArthur Foundation. After this program, if you have any questions, you can reach out via text or WhatsApp on 0816 8083 We especially appreciate the contributions of our funders, MacArthur Foundation, our engineers for today, Leonard Silvanos, Jonadas Anyanwu, and the ICT personnel Damilola Akinpelu, Etim Bright, studio manager Finehas Udoyo, and producer Ondohemba Ohain. The supervisor is Husseina Akila MNI, and the facilitating crew are Abu Grace and Jeremiah Mkume. Thank you guys for joining us today. Next week Sunday will be another exciting conversation. See you then.